I was really hoping that my last Shelley Long film was going to be a good one, and considering I loved the first two Brady Bunch films, I was pretty hopeful. I have now watched every single Shelley Long film to date, and I'm ending with The Brady Bunch in the White House. This was released in 2002. It's directed by Neal Israel and written by Lloyd J. Schwartz and Hope Juber, and stars, of course, Shelley Long and Gary Cole as Carol and Mike Brady. We do have cast changes for the rest of the Brady Bunch, and I was pretty excited to find that Autumn Reeser is in this. She plays Marcia. We also have Chad Doreck, Blake Foster, Ashley Eckstein, Max Morrow, and Sofia Vassilieva, and I apologise if I've mispronounced any of those names. And I had one question going into this. How did they get to be in the White House? And I'll talk more about that in a moment. But I will say I didn't really enjoy it. I don't think it's terrible. It has 3.5 out of 10 on IMDb across about 1,000 reviews and ratings. I don't think it's that bad. I really don't. But compared to the other two, which I loved, it definitely isn't as good. Now, I'm not actually going to say how they end up in the White House. Mike Brady becomes president, and Carol becomes vice president. But I'm not going to say how that happens because that's one of my big questions going into it, and I was looking forward to finding out. So I'm not going to give that away. But I will say that it all happens quite quickly. It doesn't take too long to get to that point, and the majority of the film is with Mike Brady as the president of the United States. And honestly, the narrative is really, really boring. I didn't really find any of it to be that interesting. But the characters definitely are fascinating. That's something I felt with the first two films. I'm glad that that's still the case here. And even though we have cast changes, they do still feel like the same characters. It does still feel like the same family. So that's something that definitely works in the film's favour. We have some great costumes and great hairstyles, and the dialogue, absolutely brilliant. For me, the disappointment is simply with the narrative. I just found it to be really boring, and there were very few things in this that I found to be very interesting at all. So I didn't love it. If you liked the first two films, I'd say give it a watch because we still have the same family, the same characters, and the dialogue is pretty good. A lot of the conversations between the characters are very true to the styles of the first two films. It's just the narrative where I feel like things were really disappointing. That's not to say I don't like the fact that Mike Brady is the president. It could have worked well if they'd maybe done something different with it. I don't know what I would have liked to have seen, but the point there is that it's not that I have a problem with him being president. We kind of have to suspend disbelief with some of the scenarios the Brady Bunch get themselves into anyway, so I wasn't really bothered about that. I thought it could be a fun idea, but it just wasn't. The execution was not very good. So I am ending my Shelley Long film journey for now. Hopefully there will be more in the future, but for now this is the very last Shelley Long film that I have to watch. I will, of course, rewatch some of the others, and I'm always rewatching Cheers. I'm not ending the film journey on the strongest of notes. I should point out, nothing against her performance. Nobody's performance was bad. The characters, as I said, were actually really interesting. That worked very well. It's just the actual specifics of the narrative that maybe weren't very good. Do I recommend The Brady Bunch in the White House? Yes, if you've liked the previous two films, or indeed if there's anybody in this you're interested in. If you're a Shelley Long fan, of course, absolutely check it out. If you didn't like the previous two films, I'd say this might not be worth it because I do feel like it's weaker than the previous two. But nevertheless, I didn't mind watching it. I can't imagine I'd ever watch it again, but at the same time, it wasn't terrible, just comparatively not as good. The Brady Bunch in the White House might be okay if you're a fan of the Brady Bunch in general, if you like the previous two films, indeed if you like Shelley Long or anybody else in it. But other than that, I'd say it's probably not worth it.